Hi, everybody. Mike Sokolowski. We are here with our second of the annual education series within Hearts for Home Care. Welcome to all of our advocates and ambassadors. Welcome to this training today. It's going to be very exciting. I have a few housekeeping items before we get going. Number one, I did not do trivia on the first one. That is my bad. So we are going to give away two swag items. For the first two to get this answer correct, our guests, Sarah and Sarah, are from Reagan Communications. Put in the chat, where is the headquarters for Reagan Communications? First two to answer will get some swag and I will reach out to you. Next, few things. We have started engaging with legislators. Remember to go to the Hearts for Home Care website and select report your actions on anything you are doing. That does not include these trainings. These trainings, we capture all the attendance and we upload them into your profiles. But that is just a little note. We want to keep up on that right from the get-go this year. If you go to the website, Hearts for Home Care, and go to the events page, you will see the list of the upcoming trainings that take us right through the middle of February each Wednesday. So be sure to go there to see what's happening. You will always get the invite the Wednesday before the actual event. So this afternoon, you will all receive the invite for next week's training, which is leading a legislative meeting. Without further ado, let's get into this week's session with our special guests, and we'll see if anyone won in the chat. But without further ado, Elisa Marone, take it away.
Thanks, Mike. And I do see we have a couple winners in the chat. Some of you are not wrong in the sense that Reagan has multiple locations around the country. They're a top national firm. However, they are headquartered in Boston. Anyway, I know a lot of you, and thank you so much for joining us. We've been fortunate to work with Reagan Communications Group since 2018. I've worked with a lot of you to identify home care recipients, nurses, home health aides, families, caregivers to be a part of our media efforts. As you know, the grassroots advocacy that we do under Mike's leadership and tutelage is very important. And another way that we ask legislators to understand our issues is not only direct lobbying and grassroots advocacy, but also through media and public affairs. So that is where Sarah and Sarah come in. And, you know, a lot of times we ask advocates to get involved by speaking to a reporter, you know, whether it's on phone, via Zoom, at lobby day, in person, at a client's home, etc. And it's really important what we say on the record. And so Sarah and Sarah are here to teach you a little bit more about what to do and how to do it. And I will let you guys take it away. Thank you.
Thanks, Elisa. I will go ahead and share my screen and we can get the training started. All right, so just to echo what Elisa said, we are Sarah and Sarah from Reagan Communications Group, so hopefully that isn't hard for anybody to remember. And the title of today's session is Taking Your Advocacy to the Public, which is a media training. This is something that we do with most, if not all of our clients. And the goal of media training is to really help everyone feel comfortable talking with the media, letting them know how to stay on their talking points, letting them know how to steer the conversation in case anything, you know, feels a little bit too intrusive or maybe becomes even confrontational. We want to make sure that everybody is prepared for whatever could get thrown your way. So this is us. My name is Sarah Stewart. As Elisa said, we've been working together since 2018 on this account. It's been a great time. We've had a lot of success across a bunch of the states that Hearts for Home Care is in. I've been with Reagan Communications Group now for 14 years, which feels like a lifetime. And I will let my colleague Sarah do a quick intro for herself as well.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining today. I'll just kind of echo what Sarah said. It's been really great to work with Beata for the past 2 years that I've been with Regan. And prior to that, I actually come from a state and government background. So I worked for the governor of Massachusetts as their communications team. And then prior to that, I worked for the Attorney General of Massachusetts. So it's nice to meet all of you, and we're excited to be here.
Great, thank you. So just jumping right in, welcome to the training. As I said, we're going to teach you today how to effectively engage with the media and amplify your message. The goal of today is to equip you with practical tools and strategies to help you raise awareness for the critical advocacy issues that you want to get across to move the needle with key stakeholders. That includes the media, that includes legislators, that includes, anyone in the public that you might be talking to. So by the end of the session, it is our hope that you will have these tools and the confidence to be able to engage effectively with really whoever crosses your path. And, keep in mind that, we're always here for you guys. We're a resource. You might be meeting us today, seeing our faces for the first time, but if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to the Hearts for Home Care team, and they can always get those answers for you or even put you in touch with us. So what we will be going over today. So we will teach everyone, the benefits of sharing your story with reporters. A lot of people, when it comes to the media, will feel a little bit nervous about that, wonder if it's better for them to just not say anything, which is not always the case. So always important to go over that. Identifying your unique narrative. Everyone has a story. It's important to tell it. And we find that, especially in these advocacy situations, almost taking it approach of a human interest story is the most effective way to get some attention. Engaging local news outlets on advocacy issues. Obviously our issues and the way that we present them to the states and the legislators are local. So these hyperlocal efforts are important. We're working on the level of macro and micro media, which is always significant. And staying on point, bridging and blocking. If somebody asks you a question that you don't want to answer, here's a way to answer it effectively while still coming off friendly and non-confrontational. And then finally, interview tips and tricks, which is pretty self-explanatory, and a Q&A in case anybody has anything they want to ask.
Awesome. Thanks, Sarah.
Sure.
So as advocates, sharing your story through media offers significant benefits. And when we think about media, you can think about TV interviews, it can be radio, and you can even think about traditional print because all of them play a crucial role. And first and foremost, media has the power to really shape public opinion. When you think about, people turning on the news before they go to work, or maybe it's the last thing they turn on before they go to bed, or even listening to the radio during their commutes. People consume media throughout their day, and it's a really effective tool for reaching a wide audience. It can also influence legislative decision making. I mentioned in the beginning, I used to work for the governor of Massachusetts, and every morning before we came into the state house, he would ask for the newspaper to be placed on his desk. And it was the first thing that he read every morning. And that kind of still serves as a reminder to me that lawmakers and legislators are paying attention to these stories in the media. Additionally, media also highlights important issues and it humanizes them by putting a face to the story. And this can really put pressure on decision makers to take action. Thanks, Sarah. Another important part of being an advocate is really identifying your own unique narrative. And I suggest everyone takes a little bit of time after the training to kind of think about your own story. People tend to remember stories more than facts. And if you can craft a compelling personal story by focusing on specific anecdotes or emotional connections, it can be a really empowering way to engage with media.
All right, so hopping into, some of our go-tos to teach people the best way to interact with media. A great tool to have in your back pocket are the 3 Cs, which is you always want to be clear, you always want to be concise, and you always want to be compelling. So let's go through clear first. You want to stay on topic. You want to be easy to follow. We want to make sure you have a command of the material. And you want to use simple and straightforward language. So avoiding, jargon, abbreviations that we might use in the industry, and complex terms. Concise. This is a really important one. We always say that if you're answering a question that the media asked you, think of something that is the length of a voicemail. You don't want to, just keep talking and keep talking. You want to answer their question and just pause. So, less is more. We want to be timely. We want to be focused, eliminate unnecessary details, and get to the point quickly. And then compelling, we want to think about visually appealing optics. So what's your story? Maybe where is the best place to talk about your story? Maybe it's in a home, maybe it's in an office, maybe it's at a capital of a state. You want storytelling and anecdotes. So it's not just, home care needs this much money in this state to continue to operate. It's, this person, this child cannot stay at home living with their family without this type of funding. We want something new. Where is the news hook here? We want to incorporate relevant examples or statistics, which I know are always included in the great fact sheets that Hearts for Home Care shares. So we want to make sure that we're up to date on those. We want to include new information and always convey emotional impact. And then, of course, when we're engaging with news outlets, the way that we engage with them is going to change based on the type of outlet that we are approaching. So whether it's TV can be live or taped, which are very different animals, as well as radio can be live or taped. And then, of course, we have like traditional newspaper media and their websites that are print or online. So you want to know if you're live, you're not necessarily going to have the freedom to say, oh, I said that wrong. Can we stop and start again? Whereas taped, if you can do that. So it's always great to just be prepared and know what you're getting at. Who and why, we want you to know your title. We want you to know what Hearts for Home Care is, what the goals of the organization are, and what the goals of whatever you're doing that particular day are, whether that be a lobby day or a home visit or whatever that might be. And then, of course, timing is everything. We want to tie our story to current events, whether that be, awareness months or local happenings. We want to make sure that we are making our positioning and our messaging as relevant to the traditional viewer reader as possible. Then, of course, how to answer a question. Obviously, we all answer questions every day. This is something that is kind of second nature to us, but when you're doing it in this capacity, there is a way to go about it that will, make you come off great on camera, protect yourself and whoever you're representing, and help you get to your point quickly. So how to answer a question, especially if this is a taped interview, you want to repeat the question as you begin your answer. So if someone says, why are you at the Capitol in Pennsylvania here today? You can say, I am at the state Capitol in Pennsylvania today with Hearts for Home Care because. And that way you're giving the producer, the reporter, whoever it might be, the room to kind of edit around what you say and give the context to it so that they are not interrupting your voiceover by having to add exposition to the segment. Obviously, never knowingly say something that is untrue. Obviously, this isn't something that most advocates or people in your position will try to do, but sometimes people get flustered and it happens. As soon as you are in the presence of media, assume that you are on the record, assume that you are being recorded, assume the camera is rolling and the mic is hot. You know, I'm sure a lot of people on here today watched the Jinx where he goes to the bathroom and the mic is hot and says, of course, I killed them all. So we want to avoid whatever the home care version of that situation is. Hopefully it doesn't exist, but you know, we want to make sure that there's no little side conversations going on that we would not want to be broadcast. And then if you get a two-part question as part of an interview, answer the last question first. That's the one that's going to remain top of mind with you and with the viewers. And then ask the reporter to repeat the first part of the question. And we do this to just, you know, keep you fresh, to keep you in line. Sometimes if you don't remember the first part of the question, you might just start to ramble without really answering anything. And then as soon as you're done answering a question, stop talking. And this is really important because it is a common tactic of reporters that if they are trying to get you to say something that they don't want to directly ask, they might just sit there and wait in silence, because the instinct of human beings is to feel awkward and fill the silence. So that's exactly what we don't want to do there. Feel free to just stop and wait for the next question. And if it's awkward and you're sitting there quietly, then so be it. That is totally fine. Awesome. And then again, some tips and tricks when you're answering a question, be a GURK or use GURK, which is gratitude. You know, I'll start out an interview or a question with saying, thanks for having me. Thanks for asking that. You know, thanks for being here with us today. Enthusiasm. If somebody asks you a question, you know, I'm so happy that you asked about advocacy today. This is what we're here to accomplish. Relevancy. It's important that we're here today because, you know, we want to raise funding for home health care. We want to gain attention for the workforce, whatever that might be. And compliment. Again, that's a great question. We want to come off as conversational, interactive, and pleasant. All right, Sarah, I can hand this back over to you.
Yeah, so we're going to talk a little bit about bridging and blocking techniques. So how to steer interviews back to key messages and ensure that your points resonate. So practices like, that's a great question and it connects me directly to our main concern is a great bridging technique. And there's really no such thing as a perfect question. It's really up to you to bridge from the media's question to the answer or message that you want to convey. You can also learn how to deflect off topic or challenging questions while keeping control of the conversation. Avoid being defensive and redirect with phrases like, what's most important here is, and then lead into your point. Also, you know, try and avoid when possible saying no comment. Sarah, do you want to take these?
Sure. So this is just some examples of, you know, exactly what Sarah just illustrated. So when we're bridging and blocking, it's a tool for basically when someone makes a statement or asks you a question that you don't want to address or you don't want to answer, or maybe even they just say something that you disagree with. So, you know, say somebody asks, you're at a lobby day and somebody asks a question like, well, why is home care funding more important than education funding, for example? The way that you would answer that is, you know, by not necessarily doing the repeat the question. You don't want to say home care is more important than education funding because you want to say, I think the real issue we're discussing here today is home care, you know, makes life more accessible, X, Y, and Z. Or, you know, well, from the perspective of a nurse or an aide or an advocate, whatever you are, I can say this. Or always say it's important to remember that. Another tool that's always great to have in your back pocket, we call A+1, which is not necessarily blocking, but it is bridging. And this means answer plus 1 point. So if you're getting to the end of an interview, because these typically, you know, are only 3 to 5 minutes long, you can answer a question, but then add in, you know, a little something else that you just feel like hasn't been addressed yet today. So, you know, you can say, I am here at they're saying, why are you here today at the Capitol? I'm here to hopefully engage with legislators and get more funding from home healthcare, and then maybe add in a why. The clients that I service every day, this impacts their lives because X, Y, and Z. And then again, to echo what Sarah said before, never say I don't know or no comment. It just kind of comes off as either like you're not the subject expert that you are, or a little bit, confrontational.
Another point too about the no comment, just quickly, is sometimes that leads reporters to believe that there's more of a story there too. And if they think that there's a story, they'll also kick the door in and ask you more about it. So that's just another tip about the no comment.
Great point. And then, just continuing with our tips and tricks, if you're going into a situation where you might be interviewed, it's always good to just have 3 key talking points in your back pocket that you can memorize, maybe the night before or the week leading up to it. You can practice yourself answering those questions, even, record yourself on the phone and watch it back. That's always a really helpful tool. So you can say, okay, when I know I'm on camera, maybe I talk a little bit faster, or maybe I say like a lot or a lot. We kind of all have those unconscious tics. And so if you record yourself and watch it back, that's a great way to notice those and try to eliminate them in an interview setting. You always want to mirror language from whatever Hearts for Home Care tools you're given, whether that's the website or fact sheets. You want to wear solid colors or use color blocking. You really want to avoid anything that's like a plaid, a stripe, because when you're on camera, especially in a video as opposed to a photo, those are going to vibrate and be really distracting for the viewers. And also make sure that you are not wearing green. So for example, my background is not real. This is a green screen I have behind me today. If I was wearing a green sweater, I would look like a floating head. So we want to make sure, think about us like, our local weathermen. We don't want to be blending into the storm front that's coming. So no green, and sometimes no like royal blue, a darker blue navy is fine. Hearts for Home Care branded attire is totally okay. Anything with a logo on it is great. You want to avoid closed off body language. A great way to do this is just to mimic the body language of whomever you're speaking with. So, if you're a seated interview, if somebody is talking with their hands or maybe just has their hands in their lap, you can mimic that to the human brain. Mimicking whomever you're having a conversation with actually shows that you're engaged with them, and it's a subconscious communication of that. You don't want to, be scowling, making faces, fidgeting in your chair. Maybe you're nervous and you have your arms crossed. It just looks, very much closed off and unfriendly. And then avoid doing interviews in loud or busy places. And this goes for media interviews as well as, if you're on site at a media day and maybe you want to take a video for Hearts for Home Care social media. You might think, oh, this like beautiful rotunda or this beautiful fountain is a great backdrop, when in reality, if there's, the sounds of water gushing in the background or people walking around and talking in the background, that can be very difficult to capture the sound of properly, especially if you're not mic'd, which most of the time you will not be. So the quieter, the better is a great rule of thumb in those situations. And then that comes to, the end of our training review. We are happy to take any questions that you guys have. I can ask.
Having a hard time coming off mute. All right, people in the chat. We did answer one about our press releases and op-eds. We did get some comments on the great tips. Anything else you have in the comment section? We're providing you with the opportunity to get it out here. Sarah and Sarah, the one question almost on the last thing you talked about with the noisy environment when being interviewed. I would say that that will be something that comes up over the next few months. Our advocates will go to state capitals and definitely they get opportunities each year to almost have pop-up interviews where they don't
Yeah.
see it coming. And is it, I don't want to say rude, when you say to the news reporter, like, can we move over to like a different area? Is that something like acceptable? Or is it like too much to ask of them if they're trying to get people that are all in that group? We don't want to lose the chance. So like, what's your suggestion to that when you're in like a large group and you happen to be tapped on the shoulder out of the blue to, hey, do you
Sure.
want to answer a question?
I think you kind of just form a question to them that is as if you're helping them do their jobs. So you can say, sure, I'll do an interview right now. Is right here okay? I know it's a little noisy. There's a quiet room available here or there or whatever that might be. If the news crew that you're talking to is, whether it be a reporter or even just somebody with a camera and a microphone, if the microphone is on the camera, that will pick up more ambient noise versus if you have someone actually holding a microphone to your mouth, that it almost, obviously you still don't want like music blaring in the background or things like that, but that makes capturing your noise and editing out the background a lot easier for them. So it really is kind of dependent on the situation. And it also is, of course, the reporter's job or the videographer's job to say, hey, I can't hear you. Should we move? But you want to make sure, is the lighting okay? Are you backlit at all? Is there too much ambient sound? Those are always good questions to ask.
Excellent. I do see, so we had Betsy Brown asked about social media sharing, and Marissa hopped on about tagging Hearts for Home Care and legislators.
Yeah.
Is there any key phrasing or any content that you suggest adding besides Hearts for Home Care and the legislator, or verbiage that would allow it to stand out when we're sharing these media posts or spotlights?
I think that if you're sharing the media posts and spotlights, it's great to say, did you catch us on this? Share video wherever you can. Video is really king when it comes to social media sharing. All of the algorithms these days are pushing through video more than they're pushing through, static photos or even photo carousels. And I think that, if you have any free time during a lobby day or a legislative meeting, see if they will take a quick Q&A video with you and behave with that as if you are a reporter in an interview. So you can maybe get a legislator on camera saying like, hey, Senator so-and-so, why do you think home care is important? And try to capture that bite of them saying home care legislation is important because XYZ. And we might not use that on social media today or tomorrow, but it's always great for us to build a library of that. And it's always great for us to have on hand, a lot of times when we're doing PR campaigns in states, it's for 3 or 4 months at a time. So it's great to have that kind of stuff on camera for us to share to the media down the line as well.
Excellent. I do have another one. What if someone is persistent with a question you have already directed? Are there any key phrases you would use?
That is kind of where the bridging and blocking comes in.
Okay.
Where, you can be persistent to them right back and just continuously try to refocus. Like where you could say, well, to me, the key points are this, and this, or the real issue here is blank. And essentially they will stop asking the question if you continuously are not answering it or are pivoting it.
And kind of off of what Sarah said, I would just continue to redirect gracefully. You can even say, it looks like we already talked about that topic, so let's move on to talking about X, Y, and Z, or to ensure that we have enough time, I'd really like to focus on this.
Excellent. Thank you. Any other questions from the group? Oh, here we go. Sarah, do you get a lot of reporters who are aggressive or difficult to handle?
Not necessarily. It really kind of depends on what is going on in the news cycle at that time. So I would say, if you're preparing for a lobby day or things like that, definitely have your local news on and be following your state house reporters, see kind of what they're reporting on and what the tone is. We are, kind of in a political news cycle where things can be pretty polarizing. So there will be people that will, kind of try to lean one way or another. But generally, when it comes to advocacy, this is not something that we come across. There's not going to be anyone out there that's rightfully like, no, these people don't deserve home health aides. So, it's typical for reporters to be supportive, but we always want to make sure that we have those redirection tactics in our pocket in case they are not.
Excellent. Any other last call? Any other questions? I know Sarah and Sarah provided a great deal of knowledge and detail in what they went over. So I know that sometimes prevents questions when you're very good and thorough about what you're presenting. But I'll give you one last shot here. Going once, going twice. All right, well, while I wrap it up, if anything does come in, we will go to that question. We will not leave. But there was a question in there that I'm going to get to because it's an announcement anyway, is this recorded and where is it shared? So yes, in 2025, all of the annual trainings and the continuing ed trainings will live on our YouTube channel. That's right, Hearts for Home Care YouTube channel. If you just search Hearts for Home Care on YouTube, you will find it. You can subscribe. It is free. You will get all the training content in there, any videos. Guess what else you'll get in there? A lot of the media opportunities that we've had over the course of the year live there that you could share to your social pages. But yeah, check it out. We will have the link to that YouTube channel on the website under the training section at one point so that it could take you directly there, but you don't really need it if you just literally go to YouTube and look up Hearts for Home Care. That's where that will live. If you come up with any questions later today, tomorrow, or the next day for Sarah and Sarah that you're like, forgot to ask this, send to either me or make it easier instead of spelling my last name, advocacy@heartsforhomecare.com. Any question you have regarding what we do, what you do as advocates, etc. Utilize advocacy@heartsforhomecare.com email address. I will get it. I will share it with any of the team members I work with to answer you immediately, and we'll get back to you quickly. The last thing I see in the chat is how about LinkedIn to promote either Hearts for Home Care or advocacy or what we do? Is that a site, Sarah and Sarah, that we use to promote these things?
I mean, LinkedIn is important, especially from a professional capacity. So it's definitely something where if you're featured in the media, definitely share, get those tags out there. LinkedIn is also a great way to interact directly with the reporters that you're speaking to. They will probably be on there, so make sure to tag them. As well as maybe any target legislators that are on there. LinkedIn tends to be a little bit more formal than Facebook and Instagram. So I would say if there is a news article itself or a segment itself, definitely share that on LinkedIn, but it's not necessarily the platform for just typical awareness posts.
Thank you. All right. That was it, except for a lot of thank yous to Sarah and Sarah in the chat. So Sarah and Sarah, from all of us, even the watchers, thank you. Danielle, how long does the YouTube get posted? So last Wednesday's is already up. This week's will be up by tomorrow. Already answered in chat. So this training will already be up there tomorrow. So Danielle, I hope that answers your question. And to everyone joining, next week, leading a legislative meeting is our topic. Sarah and Sarah, thank you for joining. Elisa, thank you for joining. And all of our guests, share Hearts for Home Care information with these free trainings we provide. Everyone have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Thanks so much, everybody.
Everyone.